which is now combined with the Nordics. So it's a bit of alliance between the German-speaking countries and the Scandinavian countries. I can't remember who the moderator is. All right, Elvin, yeah, because we usually have somebody else. All right, so Elvin, take it away. It's about the Nordics and the DACH, right?
Correct. Thank you, Zoltan. And I would say I think the Nordics are winning this battle because we have Finland, Sweden represented up here, and then Austria, and I guess you're Germany as well now. So, yeah. My name is Elvin Sababi. I will be the moderator of this panel. I'm a junior partner at Nordic Legal, which is a boutique law firm that is specialized in iGaming and Web3 and cryptocurrencies. So we cover the Nordic markets. We have offices in Sweden, Stockholm, where I am at, and then in Denmark and Finland as well. I will try not to talk as much and let my other panelists talk instead. And I will also let them introduce themselves so I don't misintroduce or mispronounce anyone's name. So maybe Dr. Arthur, if you want to start.
Yeah, sure. Hello everybody. Thank you for the intro. My name is Arthur Sadler. I'm one of the partners of Stadler Virtual Attorneys at Law. I'm based in Vienna. We have only one seat, only Vienna. I'm traveling around a lot, Malta, obviously, and many other countries. We do iGaming as well as cryptocurrencies, blockchain advice, a lot on betting and gambling. I'm since, I think, 2 decades in this field, in this industry. I've seen a lot, and I also worked at the Court of Justice in Luxembourg. So happy to have this discussion and hand over.
Hi everyone, I'm Alexis Weissen. I work primarily with Unibone now. We produce gamification solutions. I've been in the industry for 17 years now, so most of that time on the operator side, now on the provider side, but I've seen how jurisdictions all over Europe have changed and been added to all the different countries that we now see jurisdictions in. Almost every country in Europe now has their own jurisdiction, so it's interesting from an operator point of view to see how everything has changed and what operators need to do to adhere to the different jurisdictions.
Okay, so my name is Jaakko Soinen. I'm Managing Director of FinPlay. We are the best platform provider from the Nordics. As Finns don't usually use the word best, but at this case it's rather easy because we're the only one. We are around 100 people working in solely regulated markets in Europe, and of course it's logical that we come from Finland, which is one of the last regulated markets in Europe. I think we are the last fully monopolized system in Europe, or in European Union. Norway is the other one, but of course there's a odd Scandinavian country are not part of the European Union.
Thank you. And now, because we are very Nordic heavy today, we will talk, of course, about the Nordic markets, but make sure that our Austrian colleague here also can share some insights. But I think let's begin with the Nordics, and just to give you a quick intro of what's happening. Denmark has opened up for B2B license applications. Sweden has been regulated for a while and has had its B2B license in effect for over a year now, so it's reevaluating it. And then, of course, Finland, where I would say most of the Nordic guys are right now. You are preparing your new, hopefully, your new licensing regime. Jaakko, would you mind sharing some insights to the process? How's it going? When we might expect the license, and any insights from it?
Yeah, so whole process started in 22 when Veikkaus basically came out and said that they are on verge of, or the channelization is verge of going below 50, which is, let's say, grounds for monopoly, and then let's say that the political mindset shift overnight, and then all the studies started and whatnot, and then we had an election in the start of 23, and after the election there is Finland has a multi-party government, and they are always in start of the governmental season, they are writing this government program. And there it was stated that by the start of 26, Finland will be will be moving to the license model. And of course, because it's kind of, let's say, a lot of dealing happening before the governmental program, it is typically followed to the letter. So kind of everybody is expecting that we will have something in place by start of 26, and kind of process is ongoing, let's say, beating that timetable. During this summer, first draft of the law was presented. There was a consultation period, and at the moment, kind of the civil servants are writing, let's say, next version, which will be going to European Union notification, most likely at the end of this or start of next month, and then kind of parliamentary hearings are expected to happen during the first half of next year, and most likely we will have a new law approved from the parliament around midsummer next year. If not by midsummer, then it will go to the autumn session, which means that okay, it's September, October next year that we have a law into force. And what is the kind of practical issues from the law is that the law comes into force, as the kind of governmental program says, 1st of January 26, but licensed market opens on the start of 27 based on the draft law. And then kind of the, let's say, notable issues from the draft law, which I think that made also the iGaming news, was the full ban on bonuses and full ban on affiliates, which is of course interesting statements taking into account that let's say unofficial target for the generalization is 90%. It might be a bit hard to reach that one without bonuses or affiliates, but maybe we'll dig into that one a bit later.
Yeah, for sure will, and I will gladly share some insights from Sweden on that topic as well when it comes to regulating bonuses too harsh. Dr. Arthur, would you maybe want to share something about the regulatory updates from Austria? We've heard there's some interesting nuances between games of chance and betting.
Yeah, it just comes to my mind that there's a nice song, "Oh, I'm an alien, I'm a legal alien." Legal alien is around, and one of the Dutch representatives. By the way, there's a nice singing around. Sultan is very good at singing. Yeah, Austria, we have some news and updates from the case law, but just for the audience to get a bit of a picture of what's happening in Austria. There is a historical division between gambling and betting in Austria, which is very peculiar, a bit of schizophrenic, country of Freud. So we have gambling. Back in the 1920s, there was a division saying gambling is something of the federal state. We have a division of the states, 9 provinces, and for the provinces there is still the betting matters. Yeah? And obviously the internet came in the 90s, the 2000 years, and that didn't change a lot because competence are pretty stuck, and it's a big political thing, so it didn't change a lot. Things came that in the casino area there is a de facto monopoly in the land-based casino, and when internet came they said, well, it's the same competence, online casino stays with the monopoly. So Austrian casinos, having 12 land-based casinos in Austria, and they're going, by the way, to be awarded by the end of 2027, so the awarding proceeding shall start right now. And there is also Austrian lotteries, offering lotteries, slot machines, and electronic lotteries, it's called, so online casinos, online poker, bingo, etc. So that stays with the federal state, and it's monopolized. So we have 2 extremes. On the other side, we have betting, which is the competence of the Austrian Länder. Austria is a very little country, and we have still very tiny provinces. And these provinces allow a very open-minded, very open, liberal system of awarding betting licenses to companies. And we have, having said this, what does this matter for you here in Poland or being an operator based in Malta, Poland, Baltics, etc.? A lot, because when you're offering online casinos into Austria, POC is the relevant factor. Point of consumption is the relevant triggering element. Which country is, or which material law is the essential law. So if you're offering into Germany, you're going to be at courts in Germany, formal and materially, also with German laws. If you're offering into Austria, point of consumption is in Austria, means that you can get to court by player claims, ex-players claiming back the losses, obviously, not the winnings. They claim back the losses, and you're in front of Austrian courts having to deal with Austrian gambling law. And in the recent 6-7 years, there were almost always rulings to benefit the players. We won some cases, I will come to that later. The important thing is for you, if you're offering into Austria, you're subject to potential player claims. But if you're offering sports betting, online sports betting into Austria, there's a case law that you're not subject to such cases. So your online betting players cannot claim back their amounts from operators. Also not from those operators who are operating cross-border. So there have been several rulings and some really funny rulings also this year, that even operators, I mean it's also the other way around, that operators could even claim back when they offer online casinos, that they could claim back winnings from players, which is a bit peculiar. Who would do that? Well, obviously those operators who left the country, who do not really care about their reputation, about the players, but claim that was accepted, and that was its third instance in Austria. So that was a successful case where an operator actually claimed back those winnings with players. That is a bit of background, and regulatory-wise, I have to say I don't expect much to be changed in Austria. The Austrian politics will be very busy with the next awarding of casino licenses. There will also be the awarding of the online casino, also by the end of 2027. That will be a big fight, because we expect many operators to apply for this one and only license. And there's another thing what I want to tell you. The peculiarities of Austria is not only schizophrenic, the country of fright. There is a major role of the Ministry of Finance. Yeah? The Ministry of Finance is collecting taxes from licensed operators, but also from unlicensed operators. So if you offer into Austria, and you obviously don't have a license from the casino, because there's only one and only monopolist who can offer that, you're also obliged, even if you don't have a license, you are obliged to pay taxes in Austria, which is 40% GGR, which is a lot. Same with betting. If you offer into Austria and you don't have a betting license, it's not a big tragedy, I told you, because there's no subject to player claims, but you have to pay taxes. It's 2% of turnover in Austria for online betting. The major role of the Austrian Ministry of Finance is not only collecting taxes. The Ministry of Finance is the person which is the competent person to award licenses, first. Second, the Ministry of Finance is also one of the major shareholders in Casinos Austria and Austrian Lotteries, who got the license last time. And that makes a nice mix together, and the Ministry of Finance is collecting the taxes. So you will notice that the Austrian Ministry of Finance won't have a lot of interest to change anything, because everything is running smoothly. The player claims, which are civil cases, not only administrative cases, there is even no administrative case run by the Ministry of Finance. It's only a civil case. Operators are targeted by players, so that's making the own thing. Yeah, that's a bit of the background. I can even tell you more, but let the others speak.
Yeah, speaking of that Ministry of Finance, I think in Sweden we would call that a conflict of interest, but
I think it's like global.
yeah, maybe so. But it's interesting hearing about Austria also having its monopoly, and I mean, and now also hearing about Finland, and why does one re-regulate and create a licensing scheme? I mean, in Sweden it was quite clear, because channelization was failing. Players were leaving the Swedish monopoly for operators that could provide better offerings. So they were losing tax revenue. So what do? We license, we get more tax revenue. this is simple mathematics. And it worked out pretty well until you start tweaking it too much. But that is why Sweden created its licensing scheme that came into effect for operators 1st of January 2019. 2-3 weeks ago, we got a channelization report from the Swedish Gambling Authority, which said that Swedish channelization was great. It was between 85 and 96, 97%, which I think maybe many in the industry were quite surprised to hear about, because that's not the feeling amongst operators. But I won't go too deep into that. But Alexis, you're actually in the market, working together with operators. Would you mind commenting on the report? Maybe share, the findings, and also if you believe these numbers are accurate.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I mean, it came out now in the end of September, and they use 4 different kinds of ways to determine what they think the real channelization is. Basically, they use a company called H2 Gambling Capital that does their own evaluation. They use, they use the polling methods with real players to see why are you playing, if you're playing outside of Sweden, why is it that you're playing outside of Sweden. Then they also use the gambling and the licensed game providers, so they use their figures, so they're self-reported figures on how much of the gambling in Sweden is actually done on licensed operators versus non-licensed operators. So if you look at the game providers themselves, they say that 99% of the Swedish gambling is happening in Sweden. This is obviously probably wrong, because if they say that they have a significant amount of gaming in Sweden that's unlicensed, they will receive a fine. So they will obviously be very inclined to say that every thing that's gambled in Sweden is from a licensed operator. And then you have the self-reported ones that say, well, it's around 95%, I believe, or for online casino around 90%, and obviously real people, if they gamble outside of Europe, they're subject to actually pay taxes on any winnings they have. So they are also inclined to not talk about it, even if it might be anonymous. You probably don't really want to explain that you're aware that you're playing outside of Sweden, and that's actually one of the top reasons. Why did you play outside of Sweden? They didn't know. A quarter of all the players say that they didn't know that they were playing in Sweden. But then other reasons involve like being able to play in crypto, being able to get more bonuses or better bonuses, being able to get higher RTP. Some even have more games. So that comes into place to it. Well, if they're saying that there's more games outside of Sweden, how come the game provider is saying that everything is being played in Sweden? But then we also have a private company, or somewhat private company, ATG, that does their own channelization report. And they've come out with figures in the last quarters, or at the end of 2023, that said 70% or even 65% was channelized in Sweden. So I think it's even lower than that, to be honest. I think probably closer to what ideas of what German channelization is, which is around 50%, or maybe even lower than that. It's very hard for the regulator to determine how much is actually played outside of Sweden. They have obviously the figures that are played in Sweden, but they have to use other methods to try to determine how much is actually played out of Sweden. And no one knows how much crypto is played. And crypto is obviously a very, very big part of gambling when it comes to, because often crypto players play higher than normal players, or players that deposit 20 euros. Maybe a crypto player deposits even half a Bitcoin or something like that. They have a lot of money that has very recently increased significantly in value over the last years, and they have an easy way to stay under the radar from the authorities in how much they're gambling, or if they're winning, or so on. So yeah, all in all, I think the channelization is a very hard subject to determine, but I think the regulator has an idea that they want it as high as, well, they obviously has a goal, they have a goal for 90% channelization, and they want to keep it as high as that. So if they can come up with reports that say that it's close to that, they can always claim that they did their job well. And so they are inclined to actually believe these reports that they're producing. So in that sense, it's a conflict of interest, as you say.
Yeah, I I think that every panel so far here has been speaking about generalization and whatnot, but I think that we as an industry are speaking a lot about generalization, but if you go out there to the street and ask about them how much they care about generalization, no one of them will care about iGaming generalization. It is something that we speak here a lot. And why it is kind of high or low, it is because of the kind of what we offer to the players. And I was thinking that I think that everybody here knows Temu, this Chinese web store which sells. I don't want to use the word, but anyway, kind of. I was trying to use it once a few weeks ago, and then I had a teenage daughter at home who heard about that one and still can hear the yells. I was not allowed to buy anything from them. But I was still I was going there in the first place because of the offer. And it's exactly the same case with the, let's say, unlicensed casinos. They are offering better bonuses. In Finland, we are not planning to offer any bonuses. They are kind of offering better DPs. They are offering easier process on signing in, less annoying customer processes. And everything kind of is, let's say, from first glance is better in there. Just like in them, same stuff that you can buy there from the store, but a lot cheaper. But then they are missing the player protection side, as Temu is missing, let's say, this kind of, let's say, European standard test or whatever they are doing for the products. So that is the issue that kind of, as an industry, we are speaking about generalization, and that's kind of, everybody in this room knows what that means, but no one outside this room knows what that means. So that's why we need to start speaking about player protection and what is the benefit in there. Generalization is kind of a catchy phrase, but no one understands that. We need to start speaking about something totally different, and then maybe kind of it goes for those who are playing or buying them or playing on unlicensed casinos start to understand that hey, there might be something wrong in there. Maybe the kind of the teenage girls start to yell to their fathers who are trying to bet in unlicensed casinos that what the hell are you doing, and so forth. So that's what we need to achieve. And then kind of the kind of things start to change. And of course, we need to start speaking with the regulators that the kind of the playing field is level. That kind of if you're paying 40% tax in Austria or 30+% in Netherlands or whatever, kind of, and then the other one is not paying basically any taxes. Of course, the kind of the offering there is so much better. So we need to start speaking also with the regulators for them to understand that yeah, your scorecard may say that okay, you need 90% of channelization and you want kind of you get the reports that say that okay, your channelization is 90%, but maybe then the kind of regulator scorecard should change. That okay, what is the level of people with the kind of gambling problems? Because then those are much higher in the unlicensed casinos than the licensed casinos. So that's kind of, there is this saying that you get what you measure. If you measure channelization, you get channelization, is it kind of fair or not? But you kind of course it's their interest to provide reports or kind of use studies which say, okay, you have high channelization. Kind of, you need to start speaking about not channelization, but the benefits of channelization. What is the benefits of channelization is bringing?
I think player protection is a hard one because I think there are bad actors, bad operators in the unlicensed markets, but there are also many very good actors. I would assume that in Finland, for example, you have Unibet, you have Kindred Group, you have Betsson Group that are most likely offering the same kind of player protections that they are offering in the regulated markets that they're in as well. So in that sense, many of the unlicensed or licensed in Curacao operators are similar, MGA maybe, they try to offer they want the long-term business. They understand they're not pump and dump or win and leave kind of thing. They want players to enjoy playing with them for a longer period of time to keep the players with them. And that, in one essence, is so I think maybe pushing from a local perspective, regulators should push more for the taxes because in the end, the taxes will benefit the whole country, and gambling outside of the jurisdiction will lead to no taxes, or maybe in Austria there are some online casinos that do pay taxes, even though the players can claim back any losses. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I think also talking about Austria, I totally agree. I mean, this measuring is one thing, yeah, and then what do you do with these numbers? I mean, coming back to Austria, we have a strict, allegedly strict monopoly. The Austrian casinos, Austrian lotteries holding this monopoly, and we have a grey market of 75%. The channeling is the bringing the users to the licensed offering. In Austria, we just have a monopoly, the one and only, is covering 20-25%. And to be honest, with the tax argument, that won't change so much. I mean, there are many operators who actually pay taxes, and those who are actually subject to the player claims. But it's an overall picture, and in the end, you need to be attractive, yes or no, to be attractive for the users. And it's an overall picture for the operators. It's, to be honest, in Austria and Germany to operate it's pretty harsh, pretty tough. But you have to calculate in a way those players who have the tendency to claim back the amounts, which is around, I would call it around 20%, 25% to actually claim back these. The rest you can more or less calculate to keep with you as an operator, but it's not sure because we have a period of 30 years where players could claim back these amounts, so that's pretty harsh. That's a lot of insecurity, uncertainty, and that's another thing, certainty to do business. It's very tough to do business in Austria, and having all this in mind, you still need to be competitive with the operations somewhere else in the grey and black market.
Okay, I see that Sultan is giving me the time's up sign. Do we have maybe time for asking for a question, at least from the audience? Does anyone have any question to our great panelists?
Freely do as well.
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not offering any advice.
All right, fair enough. Then we will abide by Sultan, and thank you everyone for listening to this great panel, and thank you